Welcome to Gaia Community, a pagan, earth-based, Unitarian, Universalist congregation meeting here every week for rituals and classes, workshops, bardic circles, and forums with social time beginning at 3:30. I'm Barbara Griggs. I'm your master of ceremonies for today's third patron selection ritual, assisted by Devin doing tech. Our ritualists presenting patron candidates today: Kitty Degler, Susi Matthews, Matt Scrivner. If you have anything that will go beep, I suggest that you silence it, as I will do right now because I forgot. So that it doesn't break your concentration. Should you be viewing this at a later date, I recommend that you light yourself a chalice for the service. And we will light our chalice with the chalice lighting adapted from In This Sacred Space by Cheryl Block. And what I'd like to do is I'll read a line and ask everyone to repeat "in this sacred space" after each line. We gather together. Let us be still in the quiet. Let our hearts open as butterfly wings. May the glow of this light shine within us. Fire, don't fail me now. Blessed be. And I will call upon our patron for this year, Prometheus. Prometheus, friend of humanity, bringer of fire, foreseer, join us today and give us vision to see what is the right choice. Hail Prometheus!
Hail Prometheus!
As has been mentioned, this is week 3 of the Gaia Community Patron Selection Festival. Gaia Community has been annually selecting a patron of the year since 2003, when we first learned of the ancient Egyptian practice of temples vying with each other each year for their deity to become the city's patron. So this is the third Sunday. So we'll be experiencing 3 nominees today for next year's patron. As has been mentioned, Kitty is in the temple of Ninshubur, Susi is in the temple of Ganesha, and Matt is in the temple of Janus. Following these 3 rituals, we will have an online election. We'll use ranked choice voting, and we'll select a patron for the coming year. We're going to begin with a grounding, followed by a trance journey to co-create the Temple of Many Powers here in our space. We'll then visit each of the temples of the patron candidates, hear their presentations, and ask questions as you wish. After listening to their advocates, we'll return to our present space and conclude with announcements, an offering, and our standard closing, just to give you an overview. Before we travel to the Temple of All Powers, where all these beings dwell, I invite you to take this time to check in with yourself. If you will, begin with a deep breath. See if you can pull in air for 4 counts. And breathe out for 4 counts. And continue breathing slowly and deeply. And ask yourself, how do I feel today? What values matter to me? What am I seeking in matters of spiritual kinship? What needs do I seek to have fulfilled by this community? Which values and works put forward by powers do I think will best help Gaia Community become a place that will serve those needs? As you consider these points, know that your needs are valued. This selection process has as its goal meeting the most spiritual needs of the most members possible. The selection process will in no way require any member, any attendee to adopt a personal patron relationship with any of the powers who are introduced or selected. As with all of our rites, today and every day, you're invited to participate at the level you feel comfortable with. Keeping your stewardship of self and belief in the good of others forward in your mind, I invite you to settle into a comfortable position. Breathe comfortably. Feel supported in your chair. And I invite you to focus on the flame of the chalice. Breathe deeply and watch that single point of light as it dances. Let it grow, filling all of your attention, becoming the single most important thing. Let it burn away distractions or concerns, brightening and filling your awareness. And let yourself begin to sense the sacredness of the space around you, the inherent sacredness of every space on earth. In this space, we will build a temple of our thoughts, intentions, imaginings, and will. We will construct around us the temple of many powers, a place you may have visited before or may be visiting for the first time. Just allow your inner eye to see this temple taking shape around us. Allow your inner ear to hear its sounds. We're building this temple together. You're invited to share your vision with this group. And we ask that when someone calls out some truth about this temple, that we're building together, that you weave that into your own visualization, strengthening the space around us. What do you see when you look at this temple that we're building around us? Notice its architecture, materials of its construction, its layout, its color. What details do you notice? What expressions of artistry do you see here? Inscription. What do you see that tells you this is sacred space? What do you see that tells you there is power here? There is magic here. The divine is with us. What do you hear inside this temple? What sounds come to you? What music? What devotions? What do you hear that lets you know there are others with you in this space? What do you hear that tells you that this place is holy? What do you feel standing here in this temple? What emotions come to you? Notice. Sense of awe. By this shared construction, We have established our sacred space, our place of power and protection, our connection to the many worlds and ways of worship. We begin at the temple of Ninshubur.
O Queen of Ladies, Messenger of the Gods, Sucral of Ianus, fearless Ninshubur, Counselor of Ianus, Lover of Ianus. May we be as fearless as you. May we be as faithful as you. May you speak to the gods for us. May we hear their messages. May you speak to the gods for us. Faithful servant, you fought beside the morning star. You mourned.
We praise you. Hail, Ninshubur.
Hail Ninshubur.
Welcome to the temple of Ninshubur. You may not be familiar with our goddess, so let me share some about her. So she comes from the land of Sumer, the Fertile Crescent in between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers in what is now Iraq. She was sukul to the goddess Inanna. A sukul is like a vizier. A human sukul was responsible for overseeing the execution of the commands of the Sumerian king. A deity, referred to as a sukul, fulfilled a similar role, acting as a servant, advisor, and envoy of one of the main gods of the Mesopotamian pantheon. The best known sukul is our Queen of the East, Ninshubur. The goddess is regarded as the earliest and most important sukul, the archetypal vizier of the gods. One attribute of a sukul was the staff that they carried, symbol of their authority and the ability to get things done. A sukul was supposed to walk in front of the person that they served, leading the way with their staff. Sukuls could be associated with doors as well and could be tasked with screening visitors. Ninshubur is also associated with Thus, probably because of all her arduous travels in the service to her lady Inanna. As a sukul, Ninshubur functioned both as a messenger deity and as a mediator between other members of the pantheon and human petitioners. So this is a drawing from an ancient Sumerian seal showing Ninshubur bringing a petitioner to Inanna so that she will hear his prayers. And because of the belief that she could intercede with the higher ranking deities, Ninshubur was very popular in everyday religion. Many kings of the area of Lagash in Sumer regarded her as their personal deity. So you may be familiar with Ninshubur's role in rescuing Inanna from the underworld. Inanna says, I'm going. Ninshubur may have said, this is not a good idea. Inanna goes anyway, telling Ninshubur, okay, if I'm not back in 3 days, go to check in with Enli or Enki and get someone to get me out of there, which Ninshubur does. But she is also known as a fighter and protector and uses her magic. So I'd like to share you portions of a story that shows this. It's the story of Inanna and the god of wisdom. Inanna goes to visit Enki, the god of wisdom, who we heard from several weeks ago, in the city of Eridu. And Enki tells his sukul, Izimud, to make Inanna welcome. Izimud heeded Enki's words. When Inanna entered the Absu, he gave her butter cake to eat. He poured cold water for her to drink. He offered her beer before the statue of the lion. He retreated her respectfully. He greeted Inanna at the holy table, the table of heaven. Enki and Inanna drank beer together. They drank more beer together. They drank more and more beer together, and with their bronze vessels filled to overflowing with the vessels of Urash, mother of the earth, they toasted each other, they challenged each other, and Enki, swaying with drink, toasted Inanna. In the name of my power, in the name of my holy shrine, to my daughter Inanna, I shall give the high priesthood, godship, the noble enduring crown, the throne of kingship. And Inanna replied, I take them. Well, now these things Enki is giving to Inanna are known as the me or the me. And you can imagine what happened from there. 14 times Enki raised his cup to Inanna, and 14 times he offered his daughter 5 me, 6 me, 7 me. 14 times Inanna accepted the holy me. And as the visit came to an end, Enki told his sukul Izimud that he wanted Inanna to reach her city, Uruk, safely. Inanna gathered all the me. The me were placed in the boat of heaven. The boat of heaven with the holy me was pushed off the quay. Sometime later, when the beer had gone out from the one who had drunk beer, when the beer had gone out from Father Enki, when the beer had gone out from the great god of wisdom, King Enki looked around Eridu and called his servant Izimud, asking, where are the me? 14 times Enki questioned his servant Izimud. 14 times Izimud answered, saying, my king has given them to his daughter. My king has given all the me to his daughter Inanna. So Enki tells Izimud to use the Enkum creatures to bring the holy boat of heaven, carrying all the me back to Eridu. Well, when Inanna hears this from Izimud, she cries out that her father Enki has violated his pledge, broken his promise. And scarcely had Inanna spoken these words when the wild-haired Enkum creature seized the boat of heaven. Inanna called to her servant Ninshubur, saying, come, Ninshubur, once you were queen of the east. Now you are the faithful servant of the holy shrine of Uruk. Water has not touched your hand. Water has not touched your foot. My sukul who gives me wise advice, my warrior who fights by my side, save the boat of heaven with the holy Mary. Well, Ninshubur sliced the air with her hand. She uttered an earth-shattering cry, and the Enkum creatures were sent hurtling back to Eridu. Well, then Enki tells Izimud, go, take the 50 Uru giants, let them carry off the boat of heaven. The 50 flying Uru giants seized the boat of heaven, but Ninshubur rescued the boat for Inanna. And next, Ninshubur rescued the boat from the 50 Lahama sea monsters. And the fourth time, Enki sent the sound-piercing Kugalgal. A fifth time, Enki sent the Enigum. But each time, Ninshubur rescued the boat for Inanna. As the boat was about to enter Uruk, Enki told Izimun to take the watchman of the Itorungul Canal to carry off the boat of heaven. But once again, Ninshubur rescued it. Then Ninshubur spoke to Inanna, my queen, when the boat of heaven enters the Nagula gate of Uruk, let the high water flow into our city. Let the deep-going boats sail swiftly through our canals. Inanna agreed, and so it was. And on the day the boat of heaven entered the Nagula gate of Uruk, high water swept over the streets, high water flowed over the paths. The boat of heaven docked at the holy shrine of Uruk. The boat of heaven docked at the holy house of Inanna. The holy me were announced and presented to the people of Sumer. Enki spoke to Inanna, saying, in the name of my power, in the name of my holy shrine, let the me you have taken with you remain in the holy shrine of your city. Ninshubur is the kind of deity you want to have at your back. She is a trusted friend who stands by you in times of darkness and difficulty. She offers wise counsel and she fights for your interest. She is a powerful user of magic. She keeps things organized and going while you are off seeking some kind of enlightenment. She brings your lover to your bed. She carries your messages to the gods and intervenes on your behalf. In times of change, she is someone you can rely on. Ninshubur would also be an ally of the LGBTQ plus community. Individuals living outside of the gender binary were heavily involved and associated with the cult of Inanna, and her cult members and priests were known for their androgyny and blurring or destroying the gender binary. And the gender blurring members of her cult have often been included in poems and dedications written for her, often with Inanna personally transforming the gender of her devotees. As Inanna's sukul, Ninshubur would be supportive of Inanna's efforts. There are also hints that Ninshubur and Inanna might have been closer than just sukul and deity. Now, in Sumerian practice, deities were believed to dwell in their statues, and thus must be fed. If you choose Ninshubur as your patron, it would be appropriate to offer her a meal or a snack when you invite her to your rituals. And then she would be wanting you to share in that meal. And so in a little bit, I'll invite you to come and have some. She would also very much appreciate a statue being made of her to put in your God box. There are a few statues of Ninshubur that have been found, but at least one is missing a head. And so a statue, but statues of Ninshubur were planted often under the foundations or a corner of a building as support for it and a blessing for it. So she would also be expected to be called upon for advice and assistance and support when decisions need to be made. Ninshubur is associated with the planet Mercury and also with the constellation of Orion, which was known in ancient Mesopotamia as Sipanzinana, the true shepherd of heaven. So when you see the constellation of Orion in the sky, you could acknowledge her. In Sumerian culture, it was important to treat people ethically and kindly, to support the widows and the children. So in terms of a service project, Ninshubur would want you to do something to help your city. those are the thoughts I had to tell you. Do you have questions? I might answer. And meanwhile, I will pour you slivers of, this is a Riesling wine, and there are strawberries and cherries and butter cookies and other kinds of cookies. These are gluten-free crackers and mozzarella cheese. So I will pour, and if you'd like to come up, or I can pass them around, maybe. Surely you're hungry. Any questions I might answer about Ninshubur?
The question is there significance to the number 14 that showed up so many times?
Actually, the 14 is a way of condensing the 67 me into groups. So I believe that was the device that the author and translator of this tale used. Yes, Eric.
How old is God?
You know, oh, can you repeat that?
How old is the goddess Ninshubur?
Ninshubur. She is depicted as a fairly young woman. So, about the same age as Inanna, I think. And
When?
I forgot to mention that. So the civilization of Sumer, the earliest part, it starts in like 5300 BC. But it is about 4100 or the year 3000 before the Common Era that we start to get the written word, cuneiform, and so that we know that she was there, but there's evidence that she goes back further than that. She continued along into Babylonian times, but at some point, at least in one place, she became turned into a male. But I think then was kind of separated from Inanna. Whenever she is depicted as Inanna's Sukul, she is female. Yeah, and the other thing that you see in Sumerian society is that the rights of women were greater earlier and kind of gradually got more restrictive until finally when 600 Common Era and Muslim Islam took over, then all the rights went away pretty well, most of them.
It seems that the goddesses were the more powerful in the very earliest manifestations of Sumerian religion.
Her brother Utu, the sun god, is named as her brother. She also, I think the moon god is considered her father. There are often, over a span of 2,000, 3,000 years, genealogies start to change sometimes. So I have tried to depict her in the earliest, because I think that's when the goddess was the strongest and the rights of women were the strongest. And as a person, those are important to me. Kimberly? Is there a lot of surviving mythology that concerns Ninshubur? We know of her most in the stories of Inanna, where she is named. There are also other hymns. I worked with the sources that were easiest for me to find, which would be the story of Inanna and the god of wisdom. She is also the one who brings the shepherd Dumuzi, the final person who actually sends Dumuzi into Inanna's bed in that tale. And she is, when Inanna decides to go into the underworld to see Ereshkigal, she waits at the gates to the underworld for 3 days And when nothing happens, she goes and eventually gets help from Enki, who sends little creatures to empathize with the Ereshkigal and claim the corpse and reanimate Inanna with the water of life. And there are also a lot of different versions of this story, but the one I know best. And then, but there's a rule in the underworld that if you go to the underworld and then leave, you have to send someone in your place. And the, is it the Gala that followed her? Little demons followed her back up the stairs out of the underworld. And there's Ninshubur waiting. And the Gala say, oh, we'll take Ninshubur. Well, Ninshubur is in mourning and in sackcloth and all this. And Inanna says, oh, no, you cannot take Ninshubur because she is my most loyal companion. And so there's a lot of writing about her there. And eventually, when Inanna finds Dumuzi, her shepherd king husband, sitting on her throne, seemingly having a good time, perhaps just helping manage the kingdom, I don't know. She says, take him. And but eventually you get Dumuzi and Geshtinana, his sister, trading places every 6 months, which gives you the seasons of the year. So those are the places I definitely know that Ninshubur is mentioned, but there are other places with hymns in which she's mentioned. You know, one of the problems with cuneiform tablets is they're made out of clay, and apparently most of them are being found as the discarded tablets in the rubbish heaps. So they're often in pieces. So you get a little fragment here and a little fragment here, and it's hard to get the full picture and stuff. There is a Facebook group called the Temple of Sumer that's a reconstructionist group, but I only found them in the last day or so, and so I haven't been able to explore more what they're doing. Oh, well, great. Good. So Katerina's had experience with the Temple of Sumer and participated in one of their rituals. Okay, I think my time is up.
Thank you. We will now visit the temple of Ganesha.
O Ganesha, of the curved trunk and the great body, whose splendor equals that of 1,000,000 suns, may your blessings remove all obstacles in our endeavors. We will light fragrant lavender in your honor. Today we celebrate Ganesha as a nominee for the coming year for patron. Lord of new beginnings, God of overcoming obstacles, he who bestows blessings, prosperity, and wisdom. God of spreads happiness and endows peace and clarity. Elephant-headed Ganesha is likely one of the most beloved deities from the Hindu pantheon, but whose reverence extends from India, across Asia to Tibet, China, Japan, Southern Asia, and even up to Afghanistan. Origin stories vary, of course, but the most widely accepted that I have read was that he was conceived and created by Parvati, the consort of Shiva, and was well beloved by his mother figure. As the tale goes, she wanted completely uninterrupted, peaceful bathing time, so she stationed the young Ganesha to guard the entryway. When Shiva demanded entry, Ganesha barred the way to him, And so, in anger, Shiva drew his sword and clove his head right off. Well, Parvati cried out and made such a fuss that Shiva vowed to replace Ganesha's head with the creature of the first object that he found, which was an elephant. And can we please spare a moment for that poor elephant? But consider the trauma of being struck down by one's own father figure, to be beheaded in a peak of bad temper and jealousy. How to adapt this entire challenge of being changed completely without bitterness or anger. It had to be a matter of conscious choice, of will, channeling the pain and trauma into becoming the embodiment of joy, transforming that experience into being a hero for those who are having very rough times in life, and choosing love, choosing to keep going, to be peace-loving, to bestow prosperity and wisdom, and offering assistance in moving past the bad times, helping to ease the way. I imagine Ganesha as that weird uncle who is just a little bit embarrassing to have around. The oddball, elephant-headed Dumbo guy, waving his trunk around. But he's sort of reluctantly invited because it would really hurt his feelings to be left out. So once the event starts, turns out he's the hit of the party. He's fun and witty and kind. He seeks out those who sit alone, feeling awkward and unwelcome. The ones who don't feel like they quite fit in. The people who feel like everyone else is the cooler, smarter, more popular, more well-liked, not realizing that even those people, the hip, the talented, the cool singers, also often feel like they're the least. He brings them all together, laughing and eating and singing and dancing. So suddenly it doesn't matter if you're shy or infirm or feel fat or old or unwelcome. He helps you realize that you're unique and wonderful and loved, that you matter and have your own spot that only you can fit, that nobody else but you can belong in. It seems that in our culture, the oddball creative ones, the weird ones, are often seen as less than. Whereas the Hindu culture often raises them to high art, to be spectacular and delightful. In Ganesha and in that culture, every detail has a depth of meaning and symbolism. Here are just a few selected out of the many. His huge head signifies broad-mindedness and perception. The small eyes are for detail and sharp vision. The big floppy ears symbolize his role as patient listener. Someone we can tell all of our troubles and frustrations to. Pour them out to Ganesha, and he will listen. Often, when someone sympathetic promises to listen, not judge, not offer advice, or seek to fix what we're having an upset about, we can often gain some peace. The trunk represents being curious, cautious, and alert. The big belly absorbs and adjusts. The broken tusk stands for sacrifice. We see Ganesha garbed in yellow and red. Yellow symbolizes purity, peace, auspiciousness, and truthfulness. Red symbolizes movement and activity in the world. There are bold statements of joy and acceptance. Ganesha is seen as the source of loving kindness, inclusion, and belonging. This unlikely hero has also represented opposition to and the foe of colonialism. He was chosen as a symbol of resistance to British rule in India. How? By disarming it with joy and jollity for everybody, with disregard for class, because nobody regards the silly tubby guy singing and dancing with the children as equals. He's harmless, right? That's often the best way to slide right past authority, right under their noses, just moving aside the rules and the starchiness by being benevolent and generous to all. Surely he overcomes obstacles, but not all by himself. Certainly, if we're sitting there waiting for him to accomplish it for him and do it all, that won't work. We have to be out there, trying our best, taking chances, doing and helping and working. And then suddenly, you've got the oomph to make it over that last hump. You do the thing because you had the courage and the stubbornness to take the risk and keep going and trying one more time. The main obstacle might have been your fear, your feelings of inadequacy, the what if I fail? But as Aaron Hansen, the young Australian poet, replies, oh, but my darling, what if you fly? Or maybe you feel that Ganesha obstructed you, when what he was suggesting was, maybe that's not your best choice. How about trying this instead that you would be just great at doing? Sometimes you've got to get out of your own way and think about plan B or plan C or whatever it takes. So what does this bring us to today? What can Ganesha bring us individually and as a community? The promise of assistance in overcoming obstacles, the hope for auspicious beginnings, clarity of vision, peace and prosperity and wisdom, and working together to accomplish it all. What would Ganesha expect from us in return? First, that we will move forward in hope, trust, and faith that by working together, we can become a more vital, welcoming community. We will be in a better place to anticipate growth. Second, that we will renew our commitment to examine ourselves and our community for enhanced loving kindness, honesty, and clarity, and thereby seek new and better ways to deal blows to injustice, climate harm, bigotry, hatred, and misogyny wherever we find it. And finally, that we needn't always be quite so serious, that we can cut loose and party and have fun and enjoy ourselves. Speaking of which, I made some cookies that are very crumbly. They are gluten-free. They are not terribly sweet. I have napkins underneath to grab. They are spiced with, now I'm forgetting, nutmeg and I forget the other one. But I will give napkins because they are crumbly. I also have some ginger tea, if anyone would like some. I brewed it earlier, And it's still warm. And I only have about 9 cups, so we'll see. And well, that's true. And these are recycled, so, and perfectly clean. Now, does anyone have any questions for me regarding Ganesha? They're super easy to make. It's gluten-free flour, Bob Mills. Have a cup of sugar, 1/8 of a teaspoon of the one spice. Can't think of the name of. No, it's the one where it's 2 different spices in one nut. Then what's made out of it? The other one. I can't think of it. I'll post it in the Facebook group. And no liquid. And you mix all the dry ingredients together with shortening and bake them until they crack. It's often used in Indian cooking, but I can't think of. Cardamom. Thank you. That's it. That's it.
Any other questions from Ganesha's temple?
Yeah, we'll wash them. Yeah. When we started this whole process, various people nominated gods, and we did ranked choice voting to come up with the 9. I have always felt a personal connection with Ganesha because, for one thing, he's a very ancient god, but he's still been relevant all the way along to help people who are having trouble, I see him sort of as the patron saint of people with depression and anxiety and PTSD, because he's there to listen all the way through and not make judgments, not offer advice. Anybody who knows me well knows I don't want advice unless I ask for it. And Ganesha is very good at that. He'll listen and then maybe suggest, well, did you think about this? Or did you think about that? You tried yoga. Exactly. And I find him relevant in so many different situations that it seemed like the logical choice. When I'm not the one who nominated him, but when we were deciding who was going to cover which gods, I asked for him right straight off.
Any other questions for the Temple of Ganesha? Then we will visit the Temple of Janus.
I have nearly finished opening the Temple of Janus for you, but I need to invite the patron of the space. Salve Janus Pater, Janus Inceptio, God of beginnings, Janus Bifrons, two-faced Janus, watching what was and what will be, Janus Quadrifons, four-faced Janus and watcher of the 4 directions of fate, Janus Domesticus, protector of homes, Janus Quirinus, god of the folk, Janus Patulcius, opener of doors. Be here with me now in this place, and let flow the wisdom of the gods and all numine toward us in this temple. In this liminal space and time between worlds, allow us the clarity of your fourfold vision of past, present, might have been, and may yet be, as we examine the transitions we are in, those yet before us, the endings we must make, and the beginnings we are yet to celebrate. I bring you offering of rich wine. A hearth fire burns our focus. A cloaca maxima is consecrated to carry our remembrances to the underworld where our ancestors dwell. and there are 4 elemental portals through which we might pass. And though a closed door is a sign of a time of peace, we ask this day that all the doors may be opened for your aid to flow to us. This temple, a sanctuary that encompasses all, these gateways, passages to the realms of possibility. Salve, Janus.
Salve, Janus.
Our work with Janus friends begins with invitations. And the first invitation is one to remember what you thought about when you thought about what you need in a patron, what Gaia Community needs in a patron. What are you facing in your life, physically, spiritually, emotionally? What must change? What doors should open? Which ones should close? And as you contemplate this, I also invite you to select a key. That as you pass through doors, you have the means to open them. If you are joining us in the physical space, I'll invite you to direct your attention to the south, where words to a chant are being projected, and if you are joining us displaced in time or space, it is hopefully being shared upon the screen. This is a simple chant for us to charge our keys. It goes like this. I hold a key, where is the door? The world of my possibility. I hold a key, where is the door to let the luminous light fall on me? Holding your thoughts, your intentions, your needs, join in as you are comfortable in this chant. I hold a key, where is the door? A world of my possibility. I hold a key, where is the door to let the luminous light fall on me? I hold a key, where is the door? The world of my possibility. I hold a key, where is the door to let the luminous light fall on? I hold a key, where is the door? The world of my possibility. I hold a key, where is the door to let the luminous light fall on? I hold a key, where is the door? The world of my possibility. I hold a key, where is the door to let the luminous light fall on? The power of your song, your intent within your key, I invite you to come and pass through doors. If you are here in the space, there are 4 doorways to the temple of Janus: water, fire, air, and earth. There are doors throughout the space. If you are displaced in time or space from this temple, or simply uncomfortable for any reason, coming in this relatively small space, there are doors being shared on the screen that you may contemplate a journey of the mind. And there is some music that will play as you take these journeys. Allow yourself to be transported and see what may be. Cross in multiple directions, take several doors, walk outside, whatever feels good. this working comes to its conclusion, I make another offering to Janus, this one a piacular offering. If anything we have done was incorrect according to the strictures of Roman ritual, according to the rites of Janus, we ask with this sacrifice forgiveness and guidance to do better in the future. That being said, I pulled an omen and the omen was good. 3 cards that speak of growth, of change, of good things to come, if we are but patient and calm. Those cards being the Hanged Man, the 6 of Wands, and the Ace of Swords. Are there questions you have about Janus as a possible patron? That really depends. Do we have to wear head coverings when we come to ritual? And that really depends on the formality of the rite. Janus was both a civic figure and a personal figure. Romans would invoke him first in a public festival as one of the earliest attested Roman gods, but would also make a small offering to Janus or a prayer before crossing the door of their home so that they were protected going out into the world. So if we are doing, as I have done here, a very formal Temple of Janus civic ritual, we would want to cover our heads. But if we are interacting with Janus in that guardian of your home's threshold sort of way, no. In the civic sense, virtues of Janus that would be helpful to us would be protection of the city and of the home. The Temple of Janus was alongside a great bridge, and on either side of the bridge were sets of doors. There is a myth that is semi-attested in the historical record that during a time of war, the doors were opened and the river overflowed and pushed would-be invaders of Rome out. And that was considered to be the blessing of Janus upon the city. It's also why times of peace are marked by the doors of the temple remaining closed. Janus was both a bringer of peace and a bringer of war. So if you were going to war, you spoke to Janus. If you would like the war to be over, you spoke to Janus. And if you would like to be protected, you opened the door. In terms of other civic things, if you were about to embark on something new, you would invoke Janus as the Lord of Beginnings. If you were wanting something to come to a close, if it was time to end a festival, you would invoke Janus as the god of endings. Nearly anything that can be two-sided or four-sided is the province of Janus, which is a lot. So if there is work you can think of to do, Janus could probably help do it.
Any other questions for Janus? Or have you thought of a question for one of the other temples?
With our time working today with Janus, the guardian of transitions and doorways, dualities, seer in many directions, comes to an end. I hope you will consider his patronage as we undertake a year of transitions, beginnings, and endings at Gaia Community, both physical and spiritual. And now, Janus Pater, Janus Pacificus, bringer of peace, Janus Janitor, the caretaker of gates, Janus Clusivius, the closer of doors, Join now your power with mine, and let these portals be again their mundane forms, their gates be closed, this drain only a drain, and this fire only a flame. This space once again one sanctuary among many. Salve.
Salve. So we've spent time today in the Temple of Many Powers, but it's time to return to the world we live in the rest of the time. So I encourage you to return your attention to the flame of the chalice, that one bright point of light in the center of our circle or on your home altar. Allow that flame to once again become the point of your awareness, to grow brighter in your mind's eye until you feel the temple fading around you, until you lose sight of its wonders, until there is just that one dancing flame filling your mind's eye. And then, taking a deep breath, allow yourself to retreat from that flame. Let it dwindle back to its natural, modest proportions. And let yourself return to the everyday world. Stretch your body, wiggle your toes. Be present here and now. We may journey again to the Temple of Many Powers, but that's a story for another day. Now, at this time, we sometimes take an actual offering. I will symbolically pass the leaves about, although I acknowledge that most people are giving online. If you don't mind just passing that along. And yes, I invite you to put your energy into it. As you do so, and can someone tell me what we're doing next week? Because I don't know.
And I know, right?
Oh, yes.
We're going to have a class kind of slash forum. We did this once before with kind of my favorite tarot cards, where everybody brought their favorite tarot cards. But next week we're going to focus on the royalty. And depending on your deck, your royalty might be king, queen, knight, page, or it could be, let's see, shaman, energy worker. I mean, they have many different ones. So I would be interested, those of you who have tarot decks, to go through your decks, find your royalty cards, find the different way they've been structured and the names they're given, and we can kind of explore how, is a king here have a lot of different energy from, say, a shaman in this deck, or whatever another deck is using. Say again. Vampires. Vampires. Okay. So yes. And we'll show each other cards, and we'll talk about the cards, and so if you have the let's say the Queen of Earth from the Crowley deck, looking at her compared to a card from a different deck, and seeing the similarities and all, and hopefully we can kind of expand our understanding and knowledge of the different decks and of the royalty in the deck. So that's what we're going to do, and I hope you'll come Sunday at 4.
Thank you.
Okay, it may not be tonight because I have to go to class after this. Oh, sorry. Yes.
Wait.
No,
I was waiting for the cue.
Also this coming Saturday is RFB at 10, our monthly business meeting. It will be online. Website, Facebook, Discord. GaiaCommunity.org.
Thank you very much, Jamie. I will also remind you to keep harvesters or people who don't have enough food, wherever you may be, in mind. And we do have a link to donate to harvesters in our name on our website. And now I invite you to make a sort of a circle as best we can with those people who may not be familiar with the words, orienting yourself so you can read them. And some of us can put our backs to it because we know it. And since we have been COVID cautious, and so we'll share energy. And together we will say, by the earth that is her body, and the grove that is his home, by the air that is her breath, and the music of his song, by the fire of her bright spirit, and the heat of his passion, by the waters of her living womb, and the dew that is his tears, this circle is open but unbroken. May the peace of the goddess go in our hearts, and the dance of the god enliven our days. And may we care for the earth and each other, because our lives depend on it. Merry meet, merry part, and merry meet again. Thank you all very much.